Welcome to Invest, talk about investing, finance, professional development. For today's video, 8 terms only. The investment I'm going to talk about today will be Ethereum ticker ETH. First, I just want to say good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, or bad morning, bad afternoon, bad evening, depending on where you are or how you feel today. With respect to Ethereum, as I'm recording around 4 p.m. exactly, on the Eastern time, right? Currently trading like the $18.25 level, down about 3.20%. In respect to the anticipation that we are still waiting on the pending outcome of the Janet Yellen meeting that she's having with all the financial regulator today to discuss on the topic of stablecoin, or the euphemism of basically restricting or putting some regulatory tightening around cryptocurrencies or the crypto assets as a whole going forward. It could be a form of taxation. It could be a form of audit. It could be a form of commission dollars that they will be partnering with some of the financial or crypto assets exchange platforms going forward. Obviously, we are not within the meeting. It is a closed door meeting. It is not publicly televised, nor are they giving us a transcript at the moment, right? So it seems like this discussion is still going on. We don't know what time it started, but obviously, with respect to the meeting, it typically happens in Washington D.C., which is on the East Coast. And at this moment right now, it's already 4 p.m. as I'm recording right now. I believe the meeting has already begun, or has been happening, or might be still happening at the moment. But with respect to the timing of how it's dragging out right now, time is of the essence. It seems like we are just kind of hovering away, basically bouncing off the floor from the $1,800 level, which we tested at the 1804 earlier today, to reach at some point on the highest, the 1885 earlier today. So we're kind of bouncing up and down between the walls of the 1850 and the 1800. So we're just kind of trading on a sideways fashion right now, especially with the extremely low volume that we also have today. So I'm going to go to the technical analysis to see how we're shaking out going forward with respect to the long drag out affectation that we're having right now with respect to non-status that we're hearing from this meeting so far. How should we shake out ahead of the B-Word Summit going forward, and the FOMC meeting that we'll be hearing on the 28th, and then the London Fork going forward? What level of resistance should we be bouncing off of, or dollar cost averaging? So stay tuned, stick around, let's make some money. Alright, so moving on to the technical analysis for Ethereum ticker ETH. I'm recording this at 4:12 p.m. on the Eastern time. Currently trading like the $18.23 level, down about 3.32%. In respect to the equity market today, we had a relatively sizable sell-off, but subsequently rebounded, and that's the reason why. With respect to SPY, we're currently down about 0.03%. Nasdaq, we're still kind of recuperating, down about 1%. So obviously, with the anti-correlation effect, because of the fact that we're down today, we hover around like the $18.50 level at a relatively long duration, about like 4 or 5 hours. But subsequent to that, because of the reversal of the equity market, subsequently pump up, that's up to drive the the crypto market to go down. And also on top of the anticipation from the Yellen meeting outcome that was still pending, we're still like waiting for the status to come out, drives the low volume that we have today. If you look at the red lines here, it's a lot lower in comparison to previous days and previous weeks so far. So today was a relatively just dead in the water, not doing much, right? So people are basically holding it right now, holding their cash within Ethereum, not selling, not buying. They're just waiting for the news to come out at the moment, right? So with respect to the timing, that is quite interesting right now. With respect to the non-status that we're having from the Janet Yellen meeting, combined with the affectation of some sort of anticipatory pressure that will be percolating ahead of the B-Word Summit on Wednesday. So tomorrow's going to be a quite interesting day, right? Because it depends on the outcome of the meeting. If there's anything negative or any type of restricting keywords, or anything has to do with tightening type of keywords, or anything negative as a whole, as we read through the transcripts, or how the media affectation is going to spin the story towards us investors to try to influence us to think a certain way, it might kind of neutralize our anticipatory pressure ahead of the B-Word Summit tomorrow. So it might be a neutral day tomorrow if we have a negative news combined with the positive anticipatory pressure. So net would be kind of cancel each other out, like it will be zero basically, right? So it will be kind of flat, straight on sideways fashion. However, if it's the opposite side of the spectrum, right? If there's any adjective that's more optimistic, right? More of a foreshadow perspective, or a potential areas of improvement or partnership going forward, or they might be coming up with a strategic plan that can alleviate or help out with crypto investors or help with a financing plan or whatever, that type of affectation obviously will propel and support crypto assets as a whole going forward. It will subsequently be a drive up of a pressure, so it will subsequently reverse the trends for the crypto side at the same time, because of the fact that today is a relatively red day already, on top of the kind of dead in the water percolation, on top of the B Word Summit. So these three factors will subsequently drive a relatively massive demand into the buying pressure, right? So if stars are aligned tomorrow in terms of the constellation, right, we should be having a relatively a relatively large surge tomorrow if those are the factors that comes out, right? So let's take a look at that on a technical analysis perspective after talk about the psychological factors on what to expect for, right? Because ultimately, we have to understand how the technical analysis is going to quantify the areas for resistance for us to dollar cost average, right? Because that's how you're able to, tactically make money, right? In a way. So right now, MACD is kind of just like fusing together. We are slowly kind of crossing up, but I think we do have a little bit more propensity to go down to the 1800 because we don't ever hover just in between the lines. You either go down to the 1800 or go down to the 1750 or go back up to the 1850. 1823 is not really a level of substantiveness, right? On top of the fact that with respect to RSI, we are kind of depleting right now. So, and we're not like completely at the floor. We're basically like maybe 3-4 feet away from the floor at the moment. So the bottom, I've been getting this questions quite many times. In the near term, the bottom is 1750. At the lowest will be 1700. Okay, and the reversal will be relatively sharp, right? Because of the factors that we'll be expecting on the FOMC meeting and then the London fork. And I think the FOMC meeting might be, we don't know. I cannot predict the future, right? But based on historical FOMC meeting has always been just kind of like a fear-mongering type of affectation. People, when they hear the word inflationary pressure, quantitative tightening, tapering, it drives sell-off across the whole crypto market and drives sell-off across the whole equity market at the same time, right? And I think, with respect to the last 3 consecutive meetings of FOMC meetings we've had so far, it's always been the same affectation, but subsequently rebound relatively sharply. So I foresee a comparable type of momentum happening going forward. And then by 29th, 30th, and then 31st, obviously the 30th and the 31st are Friday and Saturday. So we might see a rebound on the 29th and then subsequently some normalization or sell-off on the 30th and 31st. And then we should see some percolations by Sunday, which is going to be the 1st of August, right? And then it's going to derate some sort of a momentum pressure ahead of the August 4th London fork that's going to happen on the Wednesday in August, right? So I think buying it at these type of time frame at the moment right now, while the market is relatively bloody, right? You want to buy when fear is percolating. You don't want to be buying when everybody's super happy that they're chasing the pump, right? I think these are the levels to dollar cost average right now, right? 1800 is a great level to buy at. 1750 would be the bottom, or 1700 will be the worst case scenario bottom based on how the technical analysis is shaking out right now. And those are the calculated frames I will be looking at going forward, despite how the news is gonna come out, because we don't ever just like make crazy outliers for no reason. We always stay within the frame, stay within the historical resistance trends on how you could execute your price going forward. Alright, just to recap all the numbers and technical analysis, we are floating between the $1850 and the $1800 level. But again, right, if you want to buy now for a long-term value proposition perspective, I think that's totally a fair price for you to get in. If you think long-term, right, 3-5 years out. But we do have a high propensity to go down to 1800 because the level we're at right now, we're just levitating. We're not really anything substance, right? And I do foresee some sort of a rebound because of the typical, sell the rumor and then buy the news type of affectation because of this negative, direct correlations to the price point, right? So you have to kind of think in the opposite side of the spectrum, right, for you to maneuver through it, right? So I think right now would be a fair level to get in. But if you have a really negative news and if there is like reinforcement of the negative news that we've been already percolating by having a specific adjective from the transcripts on restrictions, on tightening, on taxations, on commission dollars to subsequently cut the margin for us investors or corporate investors, obviously, with this tightening of regulations, can be hindering to the price point of Ethereum going forward, right? So that's something to be mindful of. But I think the bottom, based on technical analysis, would be 1750. 1700 would be really the bottom because you will be basically at the crust of the earth, close to like basically below the soil then, right? And with respect to corporate adoption, 20%, 9,800, 5.3 times your money if you buy at the $1850 level at the moment. All right, so that's it for today. With respect to my technical analysis on Ethereum ticket ETH. Hopefully you find this helpful in clarifying and obviously, having a clear mindset on what is the logical place going forward, right? Without having emotions or, media affectation to, influence on your executions of your price point going forward. Right. Hopefully this is helpful, and please, again, let me know if you have any questions specifically. Obviously, it's going to be a volatile couple of days and weeks coming up, but stay strong and stay mentally sane, and obviously use logics and use psychology to understand where you're coming from and place the price targets at the ideal level based on the charts that we've talked about. Do not ever buy because it's pumping away because it's selling off a lot. Never think about it because of how green or how red the colors of the chart looks like. Think about that in more of a 360 all-around type of angles, capsulating both the technical analysis, macro dynamics, and psychology, and doing your analysis on understanding the valuation would be the ideal way for you to, obviously invest going forward. So stay tuned for the next video coming up. Take care.